I'm Susan. Welcome to Tea and Games. The tea today is Majestic Earl Grey from Tea Runners. Not a paid promo, I just like their teas. And I don't actually always drink their teas on camera. I do quite a bit off camera though. Sometimes I forget to say what tea I'm drinking, and if I do, it's usually in the description below. This is very hot. And I'm trying not to burn myself on camera, as I have so often done. Welcome to everybody. Welcome to new subscribers. We're getting new subscribers, and that's really a nifty thing. I'm glad you decided to join me around the table and hang out, talk about board games. If you comment, I like comments. I will see them, read them, chat with you. Today, well, you may have noticed long sleeves. Yeah, got cold again. I'm still planting little things for the garden indoors, and we're playing board games, obviously. But I'm back into long sleeves again. This shirt is from Second Star to the Left, which is this is one of their many shirt designs, which is one of the channels I like. Also, the mug is a Second Star to the Left mug with their logos on it. So I thought I'd give a little shout out to them. If you like my channel, you might like theirs. They're a lot more professional and polished than I am, but still a lot of fun. So if you're looking for fun in your channels, that's a good place to look. Today, we're going to be mostly talking about Vikings, specifically Vikings who build ships. But first, because tomorrow is Valentine's Day, assuming I get this thing uploaded today, I wanted to mention one game that is ostensibly for Valentine's, and that is the Patchwork Valentine's Edition. It's basically Patchwork, only it's themed for Valentine's Day, except it kind of isn't. We do sometimes play this around Valentine's Day, but this whole down here for two lovers kind of makes me cringe just a little bit. I mean, obviously, Robert and I are a couple and we have been married happily for many years, but I just kind of feel like this really didn't need to be Valentine's branded, because what you're doing in this game is you are building a luscious looking box of chocolates. And I personally do not feel like chocolate should be a seasonal thing. I feel like chocolate is good year-round. So this is our year-round version of Valentine's, even though it's branded for Valentine's Day. Do not feel like that you have to have a partner or a significant other or something like that in order to play this little two-player game, because it is, as I said, quite scrumptious looking with chocolate candies. Chocolates. Ah, here's some good looking truffles here, see? I've pointed this out in other versions, in other videos, so I won't spend a whole lot of time with that. But since Valentine's Day is tomorrow, I thought I should point out the one game we have that is actually Valentine's branded, even though we play it as our everyday version of Patchwork, although we don't play Patchwork every day. It is a two-player game, and it is delicious looking when you fill out the board with the polyominoes and you're basically building a little box of chocolates. But now, let me see, we are on to the Vikings. Some of you who have been watching the channel for at least a few months may remember toward the end of last year, I got Raiders of the North Sea Viking edition, which has like all cardboard stuff instead of the super deluxeified things. I think this was like a Target or like retail version of this. I got it toward the end of last year on sale, insanely cheap. It was like less than 20 bucks. So I thought that this would be a good way to try out the Garfield Games trilogies. if you're like a regular board gamer who is into the board game hobby, you're probably familiar already with the Garfield Games trilogies. They started off with the North Sea trilogy, which has Shipwrights, Raiders, and Explorers of the North Sea. And then it went on to the West Kingdom trilogy. And from there, it went to South Tigris. And I can only assume when they wrap up South Tigris this year that they will be on to East something or other in the coming years. But the thing with the Garfield Games trilogies is that the games are fairly complex. And Robert and I tend to like games that are easy to learn but tricky to play well. That's our sweet spot. We do play heavier games sometimes, but I tend to like research heavier games really thoroughly to make sure, absolutely sure, that this is something that we will like. So we don't have a huge number of heavier games, because a number of heavier games, we just look at them and we're going like, wow, that really does not look like fun. Because some of them, it's like they kind of, you look at the playthrough of them and you're going like, these players are grinding. And we don't really like grinding, not so much. So we have a limited number of heavier games, but we do enjoy the complexity of heavier games sometimes. The North Sea trilogy is not heavy. Most of the Garfield Games trilogies of the West Kingdom and South Tigris are heavier than the North Sea trilogy. And that's why I got it. Because I thought, this is our chance to try out those Garfield games that everybody says is so good. I mean, these games are super popular and people rave about them. They get accolades for like, oh, I think this is the best game I've played in years kind of thing. Not just this year, but ever. So I felt like I was kind of missing out a little bit, because we don't usually play games that are as the level of complexity and heaviness of some of the later games of the trilogy. So I thought, get Raiders, get like the super cheap, super cardboard edition and try it out. And then we will just kind of work our way through the North Sea trilogy and ease our way up to the more complex games, because we are not like professional board gamers or super experienced board gamers. We just kind of muddle along and have a lot of fun doing it. And that's the thing, you gotta have fun. So, I mean, there are some heavier games that are just a huge amount of fun, and there are some that for us, not so much. So, I mean, we felt like that with this trilogy, I kind of, again, I want to be certain, so we're just kind of going to ease our way up till we hit the level that we feel like is right for us. But Raiders was pretty good. It was fun. We enjoyed it, and it is not terribly heavy. So if you're intimidated by the complexity or the weight or just the wow factor of the later games in the Garfield Games trilogy, North Sea is a good entry point. But it's getting a little bit less entry-like. They're bringing out a new version of Shipwrights of the North Sea. This is the old version. Actually, this is the second edition of the original version. Shipwrights is the game that launched it all. This is the first game of the first trilogy. And the weight for this game is 2.28. It is easy. And we liked it. We played it this past weekend and we had a lot of fun. We enjoyed it tremendously. But they're coming out with a new edition of it this year called Shipwrights of the North Sea Redux. And this new version, what they said about it was something like, this is going to be a completely new game. We are redoing it and it will replace the older game, and we are making it into a totally new game that is, they phrased it something like more in line with what people have come to expect from Garfield games, which just set alarm bells clanging in my head, because the later games of the Garfield game trilogies are heavier weight games. and they have a certain level of complexity to them that I wasn't sure I was ready for. And I'm going like, it sounds like they're basically going to take an entry-level game and make it a lot less entry-level. And that kind of looks like what they're doing. Now, I don't want to tell you what to do, so I'm putting two links below in the description. One is a how to play video for this version, the old version of Shipwrights, which I gather will be going out of print, since everything the publisher has said is the new version will replace this version. So I've got a how to play for both the new version, Redux, and this version. I'm putting it in the description, and you can watch the two videos and decide if you think it's really great that they have gussied up this version of Shipwrights to make it play more like some of the later games of the trilogy, though the weight on BGG is, because not a lot of players have played the new version, it isn't actually out yet. The weight is only slightly heavier than this, though that could go up as more people play it. But the way Garfield Games has structured the trilogies up to this point is North Sea is entry level. I mean, I wouldn't say that if somebody had never seen a modern board game that they would be easily oriented with these games. They would definitely have some concepts they wouldn't be familiar with, but I don't think that it would be terribly hard. Shipwrights in particular, the first game of the first trilogy, I really think pretty much anybody could pick this up. It's got like just a few things you need to punch, like 5 victory point tokens and a little standee that you punch out and put together, like with a little stand on the bottom. So not a lot of punching. Setup takes seconds rather than minutes. Hand everybody a player board. Dump all of the bits for your resources and workers into bit bowls or piles in the center of the table. Everybody grabs their starting workers and the 2 starting goods of their choice, and you're set. Of course, you do have to shuffle the deck, and it is a nice fat deck. So, I mean, shuffling always takes time, but all things considered, yeah, you can basically just take this out of the box, punch a couple of things, dump it onto the table, and start playing immediately. In terms of how to play, you will see from the video that I posted that I put down below that it's a really easy teach. It's a really easy learn. You do have to make some interesting choices. You do have to figure out what you're doing and not screw it up. I kind of screwed it up a little bit. But yeah, it's easy. And I kind of, in my gut, feel like that Garfield Games, and this is my own personal opinion, may have made a strategic error in adding a certain level of complexity to this very simple game. Because I kind of feel like if you play board games, you can play this. Whereas the other one, it might put a few people off if they are new to the board game hobby or not terribly experienced board gamers or not terribly good board gamers. So I will let y'all decide for yourself which is better. I looked at both videos and I decided to get this one because what I wanted to do is I wanted to start with the games in the North Sea trilogy that are like 2 point something or other really low, and then work our way up to the more complex games if we choose to. And we still have, there's one more game in this trilogy we need to get, and that's Explorers. Shipwrights is the weight on BGG. It came out in 2014. The weight on BGG is 2.28. Raiders of the North Sea, which is the second one in the first trilogy. It came out in 2015. Its weight is 2.55. So, you know, still super accessible. Explorers of the North Sea, which came out in 2016, is lighter than either of those, according to the people on BGG, Board Game Geek site. They gave it a weight of 2.13. So all three of those are easily playable by us on any given day. In fact, I had a bit of a headache when I played Shipwrights, and though I did not really optimize my turns very well, I kind of messed something up just a tiny bit. kind of lost track of where I was at one point. But I mean, even so, I could play this with a headache, so. And that was the first game, and I understood what I was doing. I just didn't do it very well. But the next trilogy is the West Kingdom trilogy. The first game of the West Kingdom trilogy, which came out in 2018, the weight on BGG is 2.75. That's still easily doable in our wheelhouse. Now, there is a big jump between that and the weight of the second game in the West Kingdom. Paladins of the West Kingdom has a weight of 3.72. So even given a little wiggle room for BGG weights, that's still a significant jump in complexity or difficulty. Viscounts of the West Kingdom is 3.46. So at this point with Paladins, all of the games from then on are over 3, and some of them are over 4, and that's 4 out of 5 in terms of difficulty level and complexity. So the games are becoming increasingly more complex and more difficult. And I feel like that they needed to kind of keep the first series super simple so that anybody, people going into Target, can pick these up and play them. And maybe that will make them want to learn how to play the games in the later trilogies, work their way up. So I'm really hoping that the new version is not too tough for too many people. I don't actually feel like it's hard. It's just more complicated based upon what I saw in the video. And sometimes you don't want a complicated game. So you can play some of the trilogies without it being terribly complicated and have a lot of fun doing it. And we are here for the fun. The South Tigris trilogy is the one that's going on right now. Wayfarers of the South Tigris came out in 2020. Its BGG weight is 3.83. Scholars of the South Tigris, which came out last year, has a weight of 4.02. And Inventors of the South Tigris, which is due to be released this year, has a BGG weight of 4.0. But that may go up or down, probably up, because it isn't out yet. There aren't a whole lot of people that have played it yet. So that is only based on a couple of dozen people playing it. So anyhow, this is what we did. We learned Shipwrights of the North Sea. We had a lot of fun playing it. I like the artwork on the game. I like the gameplay. And we are definitely going to get the next one in this trilogy. And we will probably try Architects. It is the next one up in the West Kingdom, the first one in the West Kingdom. Other games we played this weekend, because we did not spend all of our time building ships with the Vikings. This is kind of a callback to last week's video when I talked about playing the new Canvas expansions. We did get in some more plays of Canvas, trying it out with, well, when I played Finishing Touches, we played it the first time with the board for the base game, the little rollout canvas thing. And so it was just the second expansion and the base game. But Reflections added a new board and a new mechanism in terms of how you take things and pay for them off the board. It's a little bit different. You have to pay a little bit more, but you get more that are free. So after we played Finishing Touches, which we liked much more the second time that we played it, and it wasn't just because of the new board. It just seemed like we just had the hang of it better. We caught on to the whole blended icons much better. We came up with a few more silver stars. Those are wild icons. So that doesn't really displace any icons you might need to make scoring things, but there still aren't too many of them. Those little frame things that you get for most of this or that plus a star icon, we actually did even fewer of those. We made even fewer of that criteria for those 2 extra points, and getting things in the nifty little frames than we did on the first game. So there aren't huge numbers of those silver stars. Of course, it depends upon how the cards are shuffled and shuffling everything in, and not the base game and the expansion. Either expansion can't all fit into the deck box, and you're only going to use like the top so many cards in any game. Even fewer if you're playing a 2-player like we did. So after we did that, we played Canvas with both expansions rolled in, because I basically wanted to see how well this worked, because I was a little skeptical. I just kind of felt like it might be a little, I don't know, just a little too chaotic, a little too many special bonus icons, you know, that would take the place of the icons you actually needed to fulfill criteria. But no, it played really well. The expansions, they do have new icons on them, but they also have lots of cards that have the original icons, in some cases that have double of the original icons. So we did really well, and the balance is good with both expansions in there. What we saw from our playthrough, it does look like the balance is good between the special icons and the regular icons, and we did a much better job of making some of our scoring things and doubling up on some of those scoring things criteria in both of those Canvas games. So much better. We also played our 12th game of the winter edition of Carcassonne, which has the Winter River, which I ordered from Germany because I just gave up on it ever being available here. And we love this. I don't know why it's clicking with us so much more than the regular Carcassonne that we have. I think it's because it's got fresh artwork, and the artwork is beautiful. The little fine line drawings of the trees and the houses and the animals across the snow. It's just really, it's delicate and nice. And we've played a dozen games, and the wins are split evenly between Robert and I. For those of you who are new to the channel, Robert is my husband. We play weekend board games, and his favorite game is Carcassonne. So yeah, we're playing this a lot. Because we've already played a dozen games of it, and because we are probably going to start playing it like seasonally in the late fall before the end of the year this year, this thing is kind of on track to be a real juggernaut, like maybe most game played of the year. It'll be really interesting to see how things shake out. I mean, we do have some small games that we do play a lot. So it could, and particularly button shot games, if I log those, which I don't always do, but most of the time I do. So yeah, that could be really interesting in terms of what ends up being most played game this year, because I can't think of any year in which we played a game, even a small box game, a dozen times within such a short period of time. We also played, because by the end of Sunday, I just had a raging headache, a horrible sinus headache. And so it's like, I just need something that doesn't matter. Something easy and light. I mentioned, I've got these stacked over here, and I did not even pull them onto camera. The Canvas things. All of our thingies, I brought them out here, and then I didn't show them. Canvas base game. Nice artsy, kind of surreal art game. Reflections, which is the first expansion, second box of the game, and then the finishing touches. And I've kind of front-loaded everything into 2 boxes, and I shifted it up. And something you should be aware of is Canvas is coming out with a special storage box for storing your Canvas and your expansions, and it is upcoming on Kickstarter. So you might want to look for that and like click the notify me thing. I'm going to have to see how they organize it, because sometimes I've noticed with games that have like organization, I'm looking at this and I'm going like, Oh, wow. And that means I'm going to have to like sort this out and take that and move that over there. And then I will have to get that and separate that out and put that back in because they don't organize things the way that I would organize things. But so I'll have to see how they organize it before I decide, and also what it costs, before I decide whether or not it's worth it to get that. But for those of you that are interested in the whole canvas thing, I thought you might want to know about that. Yeah, so I mean, that's what pulling the boxes out, it refreshes my memory. This is what the winter Carcassonne looks like. And you can see the snowy winter tiles. Though you can't really get a good idea from the box art of just how pretty the artwork is. But when I was talking about light games, because I have a headache, actually the headache is coming back today. This is kind of a kiddie game, but Robert and I love this game. This is a lot of fun. It's basically a slider puzzle. It's basically a dungeon crawler game, except that you're not fighting monsters. You're going through the dungeon, picking up treasures. And every other row, as you see here, is movable, where you there's one extra tile and you slide it in to build or break pathways in order to get your token, your player marker there, to the treasures that are on the cards you have. You have each one is dealt out cards. You do them from the top to the bottom in order, no peeking. So you can't really plan ahead. You're just doing one treasure at a time, and you don't know which ones you've got until you complete one and turn over the next card. There is a version of this you can play with younger children, where when you deal out the treasure cards that you're looking for, instead of dealing them out in a stack face down, you deal them out. And by the way, there are different themes for Labyrinth. I only know about the original one. You deal them out to the kids, all of the cards, they lay them face up in front of themselves, and then they can just pick up the treasures as they can. They see all of the ones that they're going to need to get, and they can just get them opportunistically, rather than, because there have been times where it's like, I've got a clear shot to 3 treasures that are in my little stack of treasure cards, but the card I'm turned over is something like way on the other side of the board. So I go over there and I grab that, and then I turn over the next card and the card after that and the card after that, and I'm going everywhere trying to get back to the things that I was right on the road for to start off with. So it's a little bit easier if you play the version where you lay your cards face up and you simply get them as you can. So that is an easier version if you have younger children. We have played it that way once just to see how it plays. It plays perfectly well that way, but it is indeed easier because you know what you need to, all the things you need to get, and you can pick them up as you come to them. So that's better. And it's a fun game. It's a little thinky because you're going like, okay, he just moved that and that broke the path. So now if I push this here, oh, that connects that, but then it breaks it over here. But then if on my next turn I push this, but he's probably going to push that. So you're doing this kind of thing, and we're playing it 2-player. It was kind of this push me, pull you thing, but it can play up to 4. So yeah, that whole moving path thing can really move, I imagine, if you play it with 4. But it is fun. And I mean, that's something I want to emphasize. This is a lightweight game. And kids like it. But it is a lot of fun. And there's a reason. This thing came out like in the 80s, and there's a reason it's still in print. There are a lot of games that come and go, but people really like this because it's a huge amount of fun. So it has stayed in print, and I am very glad of that. The other game that we played when I had a splitting headache is Milliborns, which is almost entirely luck-driven card game. So if you do not like luck in your games, you do not want to play this. But on the other hand, if you want a game where you're really not going to have to think very much, this game almost plays itself. I mean, you do have to make a decision about which card to keep and which to discard, and whether or not to play cards against your opponent or opponents, because we play this at 2-player, but it can play up to 6. There are some cards, if you don't like Take That, this game does have Take That, but it is so light and just, I mean, we don't mind that. There are certain contexts where we don't mind Take That. This is one of them. We can just kind of laugh about it and go, ah, and this kind of thing. And there are cards that come out that then mitigate whatever you've done against your neighbor. And you just, it all depends upon the turn of a friendly card, as the saying goes. So yeah, it's very luck driven. It's fun. This is one of the games that we pull out when we want to play a game, but we just don't feel like we have the brain power to play a game. That's what we played this past weekend. And the differences between the Shipwrights Redux, and it does have different artwork on the cover, so you're not going to, and it will have Redux in red or in a red block right underneath here. So you're not going to accidentally pick up the wrong game because the artwork is different and it does say Redux on the cover, but it will replace this game. So I wanted to let y'all know that there is a new version of Shipwrights coming. It is a completely and totally new version of this game. There's no overlap whatsoever in gameplay. You do still have the same style artwork though. And we did enjoy this a lot. And I will let you look at the playthroughs of the 2 different versions of Shipwrights and decide which one you think would be best for you. Because here's the thing, I know that there are people out there that just hated this game because it is so light. But there are other people out there that are going to play this game because this game can be their stepping stone into the Garfield Games trilogy because it's the first game of the first trilogy. So, check out the videos below on how to play the 2 different versions and let me know in comments which one you think is best for you. Not necessarily which one is best, because which one is best and what is a good game is very, very much dependent upon the individual and what that individual wants. Sometimes it's kind of dependent upon what that individual wants on the day that they're playing the game. Because, I mean, you know, we played really simple games right at the end of Sunday because my brain was just, my head hurt. So I mean, it's like I couldn't have played a complex game then. So, I mean, it's what you want to play kind of very much depends upon the kind of game you like, and it depends upon the mood you're in. So give them a look and let me know in comments which one of the Shipwrights you think would be a good one for you. I'll be interested in hearing about it because they are very different. They play very, very differently. I am glad that you took the time to join me around the table here. It's been fun sitting around chatting with you. And I hope you'll come back again next week. So until then, I will see you next time around the table. Bye.